Hi, it's Hannes Dreyer from the Wealth Creators Method, and today I do not want to speak from the Wealth Creators Method point of view. I want to speak from the concerned citizen, because that is what I am. I'm a citizen of the Republic of South Africa, Incorporated, and there's a couple of things that is worrying me in such a way that I've formulated and that I've started with plan B and C when it comes to financial freedom. So my plan A, there's a huge risk attached to that, and this is what I want to share with you, hoping that I can literally sell you to investigate for an alternative, a plan B or a plan C or even both. I'm not saying that you should abandon plan A. Plan A, I'm going to share with you what was my plan A and what is still my plan A, but there's a new risk that we have to manage, and hopefully I'll be able to share with you why I want you to have this information. And the reason is very simple. Since 2002 I'm teaching people how to invest in property, and property is still one of the greatest and biggest and best investments that you can do, on condition that you do it according to the Property Pro investment strategy. But over a period of time, there's a new risk, and how do we manage and mitigate that risk? So if I look at the ruler's principle, that is a principle that I follow when I'm evaluating if I'm going to go into a business or into any investments, then it's an acronym, and the R stands for rational. So if there's a change that can change the risk profile, then rationally, without the emotion attached to it, in other words, do the calculation, I need to be able to do that. And then I need to understand what is busy happening and why is there a risk, and what is the effect of that risk. So that's the second thing. The L stands for love. I still love property, and I love the country. But there's a massive risk that is facing us as the citizens of this country, and I don't see that anyone really addresses the real issue or the real problem. And this is basically why I want to speak freely to you today, because I think I've got a certain responsibility. If you're my student, or if you've listened to some of the information that I've put out there, then it's my responsibility to at least tell you what I'm busy doing and why I'm doing it. And it's because of this love that I've got for my students and for this country and for financial freedom that I want to share this with you. Then the E stands for event. There's a massive event. There's actually 3 major events that is busy happening right now here in South Africa. And one of the events is what is happening in terms of the risk profile of the country that I'd like to at least share with you. You can make with that whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what you should think and what is right and what is wrong. This is 100% my own perception, and I hope, by the way, that I'm wrong. But I can't ignore this risk that is presented over the last couple of years, and that's why I want to address this. Right, and so that basically is the disclaimer. So if I'm not going to make this a political speech, that is not the intent whatsoever, so I don't want any political comments. I've got nothing against the ANC, I've got nothing against any party. The reason why they've got a party is because they believe that the things that they do is right, but that is not to say that in the process my rights are being violated big time, and no one cares about that except, of course, me and my family. So please, you have to take responsibility. I'll share with you what I'm doing and why I'm doing, and it's going to be very brief, but it's your responsibility to decide for yourself what do you want to do and how do you want to see things. And I hope that this can help you or guide you at least in the right direction. Now, on the 1st of August 2018, something happened in my life that changed my life, I believe, for the good. That is a crisis, and in each and every crisis, there's always an opportunity. But we need to have the guts and the courage and trust ourselves enough to be able to see that hidden opportunity, and I believe it's a massive opportunity, and that is basically the reason why I'm sharing it with you, because this is what I'm busy doing. Now, I always believed that I was free. I was told, and I wrongly believed, that if I'm innovative, if I worked hard, if I invest, especially if I can up my skill in terms of investing, that I could be financial free, right? And not only for myself, but also for my family, also leave a legacy. And that is why I worked so hard, and that is why I put in the hours to study and to upgrade my skills on a continuous basis. I'm still doing it. I'm almost 63, and I'm still doing it on a day-to-day basis, because that's what I want. I want something for my family and for my children and my grandchildren, and at the same time for the country as a whole to be better off. And because of this that I've learned, to share that with people that is willing to listen, or is at least open enough to listen. Now, I think that I was lucky. I've used my talents, I've used my gifts, skills. I really worked very hard, and I invested in property. And because of property, and because of the rights that we had in property, at the age of 37, I was financially free. And financial free to me means that I can do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, where I want to do it, with whom I want to do it, without worrying about money. And that is one of the main reasons why I could share basically freely with people that are interested in financial freedom, because that's my passion. If everyone can have this that I've got, this would be a great world. It's not to say that everyone wants it. A lot of people say that they want it, but they're not prepared to take the responsibility and to put in the time and the effort in order to make that a reality. Now, I've turned 62 last year. In July this year, I'm going to turn 63. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years, I'm witnessing something that to me is disturbing, because it adheres to the risk part of the ruler's principle, and also to the rationale. In other words, actually to everything, because there are events that is busy happening that can change the outcome of this that I thought that I worked for, right? And basically it's because our government here in South Africa is busy with a plan to literally put us back into the dark ages. They are meticulously, and remember, this is my perception, and I hope that I'm wrong, and I don't want to go into arguments around this, but what I can see is that they've got a plan, and if I follow them, and now that I know what to look for, in other words, I'm aware to what to look for, I can see this, and it's like a golden thread that runs through what has happened from 94 up to now. So they are meticulously empowering a very few connected individuals, and in the process, unfortunately, they are busy to disempower, again, according to me, 58 million South Africans. And the main reason for that is that the majority of people do not want to take the time and the effort to really find out what is going on. They simply listen to other people, and part of that is because we're conditioned by educational system not to query the so-called expertise and experts out there. Right, and the way that they do it is they implementing legislation to control the masses, just like the kings and the noblemen did in the Dark Ages. And this is why I'm referring back to the Dark Ages. Now, if you look at the ideology that the ANC wants to bring to the masses, is that we're all equal. In other words, it's communism. Now, the one thing that I can tell you is that we've got everyone, and I'm the first one to say that, is that everyone has got exactly the same rights. That is, it's a fundamental right to have a right and to be able to speak and to have the freedom of speech and the freedom of financial freedom and the freedom that goes with. This is almost like a birthright. Unfortunately, a government can come and they can take all of that and say, okay, you're all equal. Now, that can never be, because no two people on this earth are equal. So if one person like you decided that you're going to up your skills and that you're going to put in the time and the effort in order to learn those skills and then to implement those skills and then to add value to others, and I decide that I'm going to do absolutely nothing, I don't think it's close to fair to say that we're equal. We've got the same right, because I could also do it. But now, because you make money, and I say, no, I'm going to take your money because everyone needs to be equal, that is a violation of the basic fundamental right that I've got And that's why I am for capitalism. I'm definitely not for communism. Now, again, nothing wrong with communism, except that it's only going to benefit a very, very small, and history has proven that over and over. It benefits, just like the noblemen and the kingsmen in the Dark Ages, a very selected group of people, and the rest of the country is going to go downhill. Okay, and the country, and I'm going to share with you the way that I see it, is busy to implement rules in order and legislation, and they push that through and change the constitution in order to get that. And therefore, they are robbing us from our freedom, the freedom of speech, the financial freedom, and the freedom to build a legacy for the next generation. So let's look at some of the ways. Now, I haven't got the time to really go into this. I'm going to touch on that, and I'm only going to look at 5 things that worries me. Now, it's not to say that it should worry you, and maybe you are in favor of that, and that is perfect. That's why we've got the freedom of speech. We can say those things that we want, right? In the way that we want, not that you can always do so, because otherwise you can even end up in jail. And this is what is happening, unfortunately, in South Africa. In other words, they literally control the freedom of speech. Right, so the first thing that I want to share with you the solution to this. So first of all, what's the problem? What is causing this problem? And then I'm going to give you the solution. The solution is my plan B. And I'm going to give you a quick, well, why do I do the stuff that I do? And the reason why I do this is simply, I hope that some of you, that may help. So if you've got any fixed property in South Africa, like residential property, or maybe property that you're renting out, or commercial property, or stuff like that, but also other properties like a car, or a unit trust, or pension funds, provident funds, retirement annuities, fixed deposits, any property that you've got, then I think maybe just for now, be rational and listen to what I've got to say, because it will and it does affect you directly. Now, my wake-up call happened on the 1st of August 2018. I opened Facebook, and the first part of Facebook was a photo of Cyril Ramaphosa, and it says the ANC to amend the constitution to allow expropriation without compensation. It was on, I think, SABC. It was breaking news. It was on E-News. I don't watch news, so and that happened actually the day before. But my life changed on the 1st of August. Now, let me tell you why. You see, I developed the Property Pro investment system way back in 1987. A basic human right that we've got here, according to the Constitution, is that we can have property rights, that we can have land rights, and we can use that as security in order to pass on to the next generation, and at the same time use that in order to get to financial freedom. Right. So that's a basic right, and that right was protected by our Constitution. But on the 1st of August, that Cyril Ramaphosa said means that they're going to change and set in motion plans to change the Constitution. So they're going to violate the rights of millions of people by denying them the right to decide if they want property or not. That's in short. So, and they're going to push this through irrespective of what happens. That I can also tell you simply because of the way that our political system is structured. And it's structured according to democracy. But it's not democracy, and I don't want to go into that at all right now. It seems like, but it's not. Okay, so the ANC they've got this desire to weaken the property rights of people by expropriate land and property. And a lot of people think it's only land, but it's also property. Property rights like your pension fund, provident fund, retirement annuities, and stuff like that. Right. So Motshekga basically is heading this that they implemented. There was a due date on the 31st of January, and up to the 26th of January, they said that they're not going to give extension. Now there's an extension, and that is perhaps one of the reasons why I'm talking to you, is that up to the end of February 2020. But if you read through there's a lot of caucus and stuff going on. Medea basically says that if no consensus was reached, the majority vote will be determined what the wording is that they're going to use. Now, that spells danger to me, because if a small group of people can control millions of people through a vote, and now that vote is being forced onto you and me that has got property rights, we've got a problem, because that means that our property rights are going to be violated. Now, the latest and this happened on the 23rd in a news media, Medea basically says that they do not want the courts to decide in terms of this. In other words, there's a justice system that was in place, but they want to amend that ruling in terms of the way that they want it. They want basically, you can read all of this you can Google this, it's a new twist in land expropriation on the 23rd of January 2020, and the ANC has taken the lead to say no, they don't want this to go through the court system, the justice system. They want to put in an executive committee that's going to decide. That is going to be very quickly, and that is the governing, Cyril Ramaphosa will be the head, and then 4 or 5 senior members of parliament of the ANC is going to say what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. And the worst part, as far as I'm concerned, is that they're going to set the motion, they're going to smoke and mirror this whole process so that we think it's democratic. They listen to our inputs and so forth, but at the end of the day, they've already said that they're going to just push this thing through. Right. So another thing that worries me at the moment, and again, I'm speaking freely, and I hope that what I'm saying is not necessarily the truth. I'm not into politics at all, so I've got no justification of what I'm saying. This is an emotional thing. I think Cyril Ramaphosa here in South Africa is fighting for survival in terms of the presidency. And I don't think he's going to be in power for very long, at least not for another term. And if we look at the people that is lobbying for that situation, if they're going to come in power and head this executive committee, we're going to have bigger problems than what we've ever expected. So initially, when on the 1st of August 2018, I said to my family, I think we've got 5 to 7 years to get our affairs in order and to come up with a plan B. And I think that we're still on track. And I don't think there's more than 5 years to really, of course, it may take a little bit longer, but to get your affairs in order and get a plan B, you need to wake up and start taking action. You don't have to. I'm just telling you. I'm speaking to myself. Okay. So I don't think it's the interest of the let's say the cronies that wants to rip South Africa of all the assets for Cyril Ramaphosa to stay in power that long. So that's the first concern. And the concern that I've got is I've built my whole future on my property. Right? So in 87 I started, 7 years later we were financial free because of property, and now suddenly that can be taken. I hope I'm not true, and my plan A stays in place. In other words, I'm still relying on the property, but I need to have a plan B in case plan A does not work out. And rationally I can see that I've been hiding like most South Africans and hope that things will not change. If I look at the poll, there's a petition that people could sign in order to get this or to stop this thing, and only 138,000 people here in South Africa, the last time that I looked at this, actually signed it. Now, I am sure that there are millions of people that has got property rights, pension fund, provident funds, land and stuff, and I think we are so confused and so overwhelmed with everything that is happening in the economy and with the politics that we are confused, and that makes us get into a state of fear where we actually do nothing instead of just start and do something and say, listen, I don't want this, because it's your right, your fundamental right. People don't want to be associated. They don't want to put their names out there and say, listen, because they are scared of what can happen to them. And it's a real threat to millions and millions of people, and this is one of the ways that they control people, through fear. And unfortunately, by keeping silent, we agree with what they are saying, or at least this is the way that I see it, and this is the way that I'm doing this. And by the way, this is not the first time that I spoke out in terms of this, but there's always a very, very small audience that I've got. And I assume that this is going to be exactly the same for this. So in a certain extent, I can say it's for maybe those 138,000 that signed the petition that feels as strong that they are willing to sign, or those people that will do it before the end of at least February 2020. Right. The second thing that worries me, and that's of great concern, is that the ANC is busy to demonopolize the economy. What do I mean with that? They are weakening the private sector, and in doing so, they increased the state control. Typically, again, it's a communistic ideology that they are busy to implement it. And in doing so, unless it favors the ANC or their cronies, they're going to pressure and pressurize, and it's the entrepreneurs in South Africa that is going to stimulate the economy. It's not the government. Government hasn't got the expertise or the experience to stimulate the economy. That depends on the entrepreneur. But if you kill the entrepreneurship, if you make it difficult for entrepreneurs to operate the way that they should, the whole economy is going to suffer. The third thing that worries me at this point is, and it's a great concern to me, is the ANC's determination to nationalize the health insurance industry. Now, what do I mean with that? One of the rights that I've got is to make provision for my old age. One of the things that I know that's going to happen at old age is you become fragile. You haven't got the same vitality that you've got at the age of 30 or 40. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to work very, very hard to get enough passive income to be able to afford the best medical aid that I could possibly, that's available. I'm on one of the best medical aids here in South Africa. I'm paying in the vicinity of 11,000 Rand per month for that privilege, but it's something that I've worked for and that I'm still working towards to. Now, the moment that they say, and the reason why the ANC wants, there's a lot of money that they can control and that they can lay their hands on immediately. So that is the reason why they're pushing, and they're going to do everything in their power, and they will push this through, because then we're all equal with equal rights. And again, I'm coming back to what I've said. We are not all equal. If someone worked for something and someone did not, then we're not equal, right? Because someone has put in the time and the effort to learn the skills in order to be able to do it, and everyone's got the right to do it, but it's not to say that everyone uses that right and do what they're supposed to do in order to get there. And yeah, this to me is sadly, so I've worked my whole life. Now that I'm 62, basically most people retire around 60, 65, or they try to retire. And now that you'll need it, now suddenly they say no, sorry. In other words, I've wasted all the time that I've paid on these funds. First of all, I've wasted all the money that I've paid, all the energy that I've worked to work harder, because the medical aid, if I'm paying 11,000, that 11,000 is basically with after-tax money. So I had to earn this additional 45% of that. Immediately went to the government, and they were willing to take that money. And now they say, okay, but tough luck, you're not going to get any of the benefits. Right. So again, I'm sharing with you my concerns. It's not to say maybe you haven't got a concern. Maybe you're happy with this, with the government's medical aid scheme, and then it's fine. The fourth thing that I've got is the government's plan to increase state control over the country's pension fund. Now, not only do they want to control that through prescribed assets and where to invest and how to invest, they literally want to lay their hands on that fund. Now, there's approximately 12 million South Africans currently that contributes, or that has got to contribute within the different funds, and there's more than 4 trillion rands. Now, what is a trillion? You get a million, and then 1,000 million becomes a billion, and then 1,000 billion becomes a trillion, and there's 4 trillion. Now, I think that you can see why they want to have that money and to control that money. And that is why I say it's not only the land grab, it's also a property grab. And one of the biggest assets that the average South African has got will be their pension fund. Now, we need to be very careful because your pension fund does not belong to you, actually, if you think about it. So it's the pension fund that holds the funds, and you are only the beneficiary of that. And that is why there's certain estate duty privileges that you'll have, and where your fund is protected. But the moment that the government takes control of that, they control 4 million, plus all the interest and all the income that is going to come into into these funds. And that is why they want to start prescribe, because Eskom is failing. This morning we had a blackout. Yesterday we had 2 blackouts here in South Africa. That is detrimental to the economy. You can't run a country that is based on energy consumption in order to make and to produce more value. If you take that basis away, the value can't be produced, and if there's no value, there's no contribution, there's no income for those companies. And so I believe that, now of course the fund managers and everyone that says that, listen, this is a good thing, they have to say that, because otherwise they're out of a job, if you really think about it. But there's proof that this thing is not working. If you look at what happens with unit trusts or the tracker funds over a 10-year, a 7-year, a 5-year, and a 1-year, you're going to find that the growth, and I can prove that in other webinars and seminars that I had, I've proved that, and I showed people this, it's declining. So for the last year, not a single fund in South Africa could beat the inflation rate here in South Africa. That is how bad it really is. Now, of course, there's people that say, no, it's not the truth, and they've changed it, and just show me the evidence of this, and show me what the inflation rate is, because we are even confused when it comes to the inflation rate, because what the government tells you the inflation rate is and what your inflation rate is 2 different things. And people, because they don't want to think about it and they don't want to understand it, because it takes a lot of effort to understand how these things are made up, they just believe everything that the government is teaching them. Okay, the last thing that I want to talk about is that I've got a concern is this thing that they want to nationalize the South African Reserve Bank. And they're going to do that. They've said that they're going to do it. The timing is just not right. And now I see that there's media that says, yeah, but it's not such a bad thing and so forth. My friend, the moment that they control that money supply, they can do whatever they want, and they can go to print money like in Venezuela and Brazil and even Zimbabwe. And that is going to cause here hyperinflation. And if you're not linked and geared for hyperinflation, by the way, can be incredible if you've got assets. But if they're going to take the assets away and there's hyperinflation, you've got a serious problem. Not you, everyone in the country will have serious problem. So unless you've got a way to counteract that, right, be careful and start to investigate in this. And why on earth do they do this? You see, they want to bring this ideology of communism in, this nobleman and kingsman of the Dark Ages. That is what it boils down to. So a few people is going to, and the connected people is going to have an incredible lifestyle, and the rest of South Africa is going to battle like crazy. And my concern at the moment is, if I look at the average person, it's like we're sitting back and saying, no, it will never happen. And by the way, I had that exact same attitude up to the 1st of August 2018, because on 1st of August 2018, that was my crisis point, because I could not ignore this any longer. I had to do something, and in that is the solution. In other words, this incredible potential that we've got. And we can structure our affairs that if it's not true, then because of plan A, everything is going to carry on and we'll live happily ever after. But if plan A does not work out, then plan B must be so strong that irrespective of what happened in South Africa, you must still have the plan B. You must still be able to continue and have your legacy and have the freedom to be able to live anywhere in the world and enjoy the fruits of your labor. At least that is the way that I see. Okay, and this is the main reason why I say this is like almost like in the Dark Ages, where they want to control what we think, what we see, what we say, the way that we say it, and our financial freedom. Now, I've already said this, but this is to benefit the very, very few people and their cronies, like the kingsmen and the noblemen did in the Dark Ages. I've already mentioned that we're not equal, and we've got the same rights, but we're not equal. And we've got the same privileges. If you want to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to study a new skill and to gain a new skill, you can still do it. And I'll believe that you can do it over the next couple of years if you are willing to do it. So why do I mention this to you? It's because of this risk. If something happens to your medical aid or to your pension fund or to small business entrepreneurs that actually they have to keep the country running, that is where employees will benefit from. And you take away the unions, which is a communism, and say, okay, only a few people that has got a job is protected, and the millions of South Africa that hasn't got a job, tough luck for them. And this is one of the reasons, I think, why the economy is not growing, and there's no tax incentives, and then they tax us to death, and then they take the tax and they say that the government, is supplying houses and water and electricity and helping the poor. That's a lie. It's us, the taxpayers, that is doing that. And the rest of the money they go and borrow, and we, the taxpayers, have to pay the interest. So the government is absolutely busy with the propaganda that is a lie. They do not benefit anyone, but they want to control the money so that they can deplete the money, so that they can destroy this country in order to benefit them. They've got no long-term vision. Again, this is my perspective, and I really and truly hope I'm wrong, and I'm not even going to open this for a discussion, because you have to make up your own mind. You have to take responsibility for what you believe and what you think, and hopefully we hope that is going to work out. Right, so what is my solution? Maybe in order for me to tell you a little bit about it, it's actually again by luck that this happened. In about 3 years ago, we were camping in Kamdaboer. We love the outdoors and we love to be in nature. So I've got nice toys, and I pull out a tent pen. And as I pull out this tent pen, I saw this coin, a copper coin, embedded in this lump of earth, and only the brim, only a small portion. So I took that and I said to Tanya, my wife, I said to her, check this treasure that I discovered, not knowing what the value of that coin is. So I started cleaning it up, and Tanya immediately said, your next million. Now, there's a reason why she said that, because over the last 15 years, I've started 55 different businesses in different industries, to prove to my students that you don't need money to make money, you don't need networks, you don't need contacts, you don't need a database. Each and every time you can start investments without money. All you have to do is the skills. You need to become a wealth creator. And that's why Tanya referred to that, because she knows that I've got that ability to turn the 2 cents into whatever amount I want to. And my first reaction was, of course, no, I'm not going to do it again. But as we drove to the next stop, I think that was in Clarence, I started thinking, what was the one thing that I've never showed my students? I say, follow the wealth creator strategy. The definition of that is the intelligent use of limited resources to go from where you are to where you want to be in the smallest possible time with the least amount of risk. So if you follow the wealth creator strategy, even if you take massive risk, you'll still get to your end goal. And I've never showed that to people, because I show them in starting a business how to do it without money, or investment without money, and therefore there's no risk. But now, as I'm driving, I thought by myself, what's the biggest risk investment that's got the biggest risk attached to it that I could think of? And Bitcoin came up first of all. And the reason for that, about 3 years earlier, I think about in 2012 already, 13, my colleague and partner came to me and said, why don't we mine Bitcoin? And I looked at Bitcoin, and when I saw Bitcoin, I said, this is a scheme. There's no intrinsic value to this. And I asked him, what's the intrinsic value? And I cut this and I said, no, I'm not interested in it. And I think that was the reason why I came up with this Bitcoin as the highest risk. So my rationale about this was, I'm going to take the 2 cents, convert it into 20,000 Rand by using my skills in a cryptocurrency or Bitcoin portfolio. And so when I went to my students, my database, while I was speaking, I said, okay, let's make it 200,000. So turn 2 cents into 200,000 in the riskiest, and at the end of the year, irrespective of what happened, even if Bitcoin drops by 90%, I would still have the equivalent of 200,000 Rands worth of Bitcoin in that portfolio. And what I wanted to prove to them is that if you know what risk is and how to handle risk, and you combine that with the wealth creator strategy, that you can get to your goal irrespective of what happened. And I see very few people can get around this, that Warren Buffett can lose 4 or 5 billion in a year in one company and still get a growth of, let's say, 23% at the end of the year in terms of his portfolio. And because we don't understand this, and people don't teach this to us, we don't understand that you can actually lose money but still get a phenomenal growth on your investment. And that is why we say in the Wealth Creators Method, it's not about the profit, it's about the growth on your investment that's going to make you rich. Because the only way that you can get that growth is if you've got the skills. And the moment that you've got the skills, then you eliminate risk. Because Warren Buffett also says risk is when you do not know what you're doing. So if I know about a risk and I know how to handle that risk and mitigate that risk and to overcome that risk, I will always get to the end result, right? And I decided to do that. Now, remember, that's a couple of years ago. So on the 1st of August, I started with this, and for that reason, I had to put in the time and the effort. I went through the ruler's principle again to understand Bitcoin. I discovered that altcoins got the same potential, perhaps even bigger. I developed a new strategy. We call it uniform asymmetrical investments. And by the way, all of this is in different seminars and webinars, and most of the stuff I'm even sharing for free. All right. And because of that, I started to understand that it's not the cryptocurrency, it's the blockchain. The blockchain is the asset. And that is where the disruption going to happen. So at the moment, there's 55 industries that are already being disrupted by this new technology. Now, we're in this limbo state where the old system does not want the new system to be there, but the new system is going to be unstoppable. There's no ways that you'll be able to stop this. Okay, and this is why there's a lot of, let's call it conflict and misinformation. But this is where the profit is lying. In other words, because of this immense volatility is where the real profits and the real growth is going to be. So just like in '87 when I developed the Property Pro investment system, exactly the same thing. On the 1st of August, when Cyril Ramaphosa said about this expropriation of land, I sat down with my family and I decided what's the action that I'm going to take, and that I'm going to focus on this to develop a system the way that I developed the system in '87 through the Property Pro investment system. And I started with this process, and I follow the ruler's principle. And by the way, if you are interested in this, just give me a comment and I'll give you a link where you can get on cryptocurrency how to apply the ruler's principle, the whole caboodie for free, right? I've also got, after it qualifies, I've got 47 steps that I'm taking. I've got a course on that I'm doing, but it's not even necessarily that you do it, because I'm going to give you a solution today that is going to baffle your mind how easy it is, and you don't need expertise and you don't need to do any courses. Of course, if you really want great results, maybe I can help you. But the results that I'm going to show you will outperform any other results. Plus, it's going to give you exactly what I'm busy referring to, but it may take a little bit longer time, but we'll get into that just now. So because of that, I then got into this, and at the moment we're running about 60 funds, and personally, and the growth on that is phenomenal. Now, why do I think that this is the solution? Right, taking South Africa, the context of South Africa into consideration. First of all, no one, it's permissionless. In other words, no one can tell me, listen, you can invest in the blockchain or you can't invest in blockchain or certain cryptocurrency or altcoins. No one can do that. right? Because of this blockchain technology. And you can do it anywhere in the world and from anywhere in the world. And there are countries that try to prohibit their citizens to do it, but there are ways, easy way around that. So the second thing that I love is it's decentralized, okay? And what does that mean? It simply means that it is not controlled by a government like the Reserve Bank that says you can only trade in rands or in American dollars if you're in dollars or in euro. So the currency is open to any person anywhere in the world, and no one can tell you that you can or that you can't use this type of currency or altcoin or technology, right? Also, it is borderless. Now, just imagine, so if the rand tanks and the hyperinflation goes through the roof, but you're in Bitcoins as an example, then you are protected against this massive hyperinflation immediately without leaving the boundaries of South Africa. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to close it or that they're not going to try to close it, but there's always ways out if you're a little bit creative. And at the moment, it's legal here in South Africa. Right. And there's no one that is controlling that and can control this. And it's that reason why the Bitcoin, as an example, if you compare over the last 10 years, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 years, that you're getting growth that it is that no other asset class can give you. And in order to be able to do that, maybe what I need to do is to turn to my computer, get into a program and show you. You don't need the program, by the way, but I can show you how I got to that. The program just makes it so much easier for me to test data, and that's the reason why I've got the system, and then show you what to do. I hope that you will love that and that you will implement that. If you've got questions, you're more than willing to ask me. And so let me get to my computer and then I'm going to continue from there. Okay, so let me get my glasses on, and today is the 4th of the 2nd, 2020. This, by the way, is the Dreyer crypto psychological indicator, but what I want to do is to go to the crypto balancing history, and I'm going to go to a BTC. And I'd like to track it on a month-to-month basis from 2015, the 2nd February, and today is the 4th. So I want to get at least, 60 months, 5 years. So generate the report. Now, I need to explain quickly. So there's 60 months. If you put in 1,000, I'm using dollars. You can use rands. The outcome is going to be more or less the same. The total amount invested 60,000, and the total value today will be 689,000. That gives us, and this is the important part, 79.32% growth. Now, here's the way to explain it. So on the 4th of February 2015, exactly 5 years ago, if you invested $1,000 or pounds or euro or rands into Bitcoin, and you bought Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price at that point was 225.47. So you would get 4.43 Bitcoins. The price today is 9,282.50. This simply means that the value today is 41,169. So if you did not sell anything, but today you decide I'm going to sell, that is the value that you would get. So how do we and how can you use this information without having a program? Very simple. We use Crypto Compare to get the values, but we pay for the information. There's another way that you can get it. If you go to coinmarketcap.com, you'll see a list of all the cryptocurrencies. You click on Bitcoin, and then on Bitcoin, the price according to them now, currently. And remember, our program update about 5 or 10 minutes. It's not real like CoinMarketCap. It's 9,276, and we say it's 9,282. That's the first thing. The second thing is if we go back to the 4th of the 2nd, 2015. So the easiest way to do that is simply to change this date. We want the 4th of the 2nd, 2015. I'm going to make this the 3rd. Let me have a little bit maneuverability here. Right? and then we go to that date. It was about 227. That was on the 4th, and we said it was 225. That was the closing price on Crypto Compare. Okay, now this is the interesting part. That's 79.32%. If I go and build an Excel spreadsheet, so in 60 months from now on, we see that if we've invested that 1,000 over that last 60 months at 79.32, it simply means that that money is worth 689,000 Rand in today value. Now, why is that important? Let me show you. If you've got a property, and you've got 1,000 Rand or $1,000 surplus, and you invest that in that property, in other words, you take the money to pay off the bond quicker, how fast and what growth will you get on your investment? Well, the growth that you're going to get will be the interest that you are paying. So if the interest rate is 10 or 10.25, I'm going to take it 10.25 because I've built, for an example, something in the Property Pro system at $1 million already at 10.25. That's the reason why I'm taking it, so that I can show what's the settlement amount in 5 years or 6 years from now on. So if we do that at 10.25%, it simply means that you will pay 98,000 Rand of the capital. So the growth is the same as the interest that you get. So to compare the two over the same period of time, this should be 60 months. So if you compare the same, it's 77,000 Rand that you'll have by paying off your bond versus 689,000. Now, there's something else. If you've invested this in unit trust over the last 5 years, you would not be able to get a 10.25% in general equity. The last figures that I saw was only 8.74%. But you can go and check that off, of course. So we see there's almost a 600,000 plus difference. So if we go to the Property Pro investment program on $1 million bond today, and this is something that I'd like to show you. So if you've got a $1 million bond and at 10.5%, you're going to find that in 5 years' time to settle that bond, you'll need 903,000 Rand. So if you look here, we're going to see 689. You've almost got the money, but you haven't got all the money. So let's take the term to 72 months and do exactly the same thing with Bitcoin. So I'm going to go back, and this time we say it's 2014 because I need 72 months. We say generate the report. We'll see it's going to be over 900,000, but this is what I'm interested in. The growth compounded will be 68.41. So it's 932. If I go back to the Property Pro program, we look in 6 years' time, we see the outstanding bond is 876,976, and in Bitcoin we'll have 932,000. Now, at that point in time, you can go and settle it. Now, if you've paid off your bond over the same period of time, 72 months, it means that instead of 932,000 in Bitcoin, with all the advantages that I've mentioned earlier, you're going to sit with 98,000 Rand in terms of your bond that you've paid off. Now, why do I tell my children not to do this at this stage? If the government wants to clamp down on your property, you want the biggest outstanding bond there is. In other words, I do not want to take my money and put it into property knowing that there's a chance that they can take my property. So if they're going to take my property, I want them to take the property with the bond, because there's no ways, especially if I've got only one property, that I'm going to keep on paying the bond. And that is why I say this will have a devastating effect, because immediately the banks are going to have a chaos. There's going to be absolute chaos in South Africa. Plus, that is going to cause hyperinflation. Now, why is that important? Because if your asset is in a property and they say, okay, but now that property belongs to me, your asset is gone. If you've got an asset that is separate, that is totally separate, in the method mentoring, I'm teaching my students how to mitigate that risk. But there's no ways that they'll be able to touch that money, and that money is secure. Then within a 6-year period, you've got a position where if nothing happens, and you can see that nothing happens, You simply settle your bond, and you're off about 10 times better than trying to pay off your bond. But if they say we're going to take your bond and your property, you give them the bond, but the maximum bond, and you've still got the bitcoins that you can do whatever you want to, wherever you want to. Now, if you can maintain this over a period of time at that kind of growth, it's going to be phenomenal. So what about shorter terms? Because that's what we need to do. We need to compare. That is, at the Wealth Creators University, we say it's only the results matter. Forget about all this talk. What are the results? And these are the results that I'm showing you. And now everyone's going to tell you about Bitcoin and not to invest in it. And I've already told you why. Because the insurance company and the financial advisors, they cannot advise you to invest in this new class of asset. There's no ways that they're allowed to do it. Plus, they're not going to get any commission because there's no commission on Bitcoin. Right? And the moment that we start getting that and we follow the money, we can see why the industry is opposed to the blockchain technology. They have to, because there's a massive disruption that is busy taking place, and that is where and why there's so chaos, and that chaos boils down to volatility, and volatility is where the money is, and that is the reason why I can structure asymmetrical uniform investments. And my portfolio that we do in the Dreyer crypto strategy, maybe I'll give you a glance to it, outperformed this by far, right? And with the Wealth Creators method, it's even more spectacular. Right, so let's quickly go and have a look at the shorter terms. So if we say 2016, the growth is 75.66. 2017, the growth on average 51.27. 2018, 34.69%. And over the last year, it's 73.55. And I hope you see why I say that Bitcoin, if you use this balancing fund, that any other investment, any other class, it would outperform over any period of time. And like I've said before, at the Wealth Creators University, we say, but what are the results? Now, of course, I'm not telling you that you should do this. I'm just showing you an option. And the next thing that I want to do is to show you how simple this is and that you can do it yourself. And I will give you training free of charge on how to do it yourself. Because then you can take the responsibility, start off small, do some of my other seminars and webinars, and make sure that you understand the process. I'll give you access to the Dreyer Crypto, the free training on the ruler's principle. If you are interested, I really want you to start, at least get into it, even if it's with 100 rands per month. Because the moment that you start getting into it and you start to understand it and you start getting training on it, you're going to find that this is going to be the future. And I'm 100% sure as I can be, that this thing is going to disrupt there's 55 industries that it is busy disrupting at the moment. And we're at the point, by the way, yesterday was that crossover point. Of course, I teach my other students what I'm talking about. But there's a massive growth coming in Bitcoin and the altcoins, and the altcoins is actually going to outperform Bitcoin. It's amazing what is busy happening here, yet no one knows about it, no one cares about it. And if you take South Africa and that events that is busy happening, the 5 that I've mentioned to you, then it is, well, I think you should at least have a look at this as an option. Please do not put all your money in. Please do the training before you do anything. But this is really something. This is my plan B. I've got a plan C, by the way. At that point in time, we decided that we need to get a permanent citizenship and residency in other countries. We started with the process. We do have a permanent residency in my whole family. That is plan C. But plan B can fit for plan A as well as for plan C. So if they decided that they're going to take the property, then that's fine. We'll be in a position where we can carry on in any other country, but even in South Africa. Now, if they take your property in South Africa, right, with 100% bond, then immediately I'm telling you that we are going to put in a hyperinflationary state, especially if they nationalize the Reserve Bank. Right. The moment that that happened and your money is worth in property, you've got a problem. Now, if you bought that property and it cost you nothing, you'll have no problem. But please do not put in any surplus money into that property. That's what I'm trying to tell you at this stage. Rather build a nest egg outside where no one can touch it, and make sure that you do as extensive training on this so that you can understand it, because the ruler's principle, the U in the ruler's principle basically says understand that you do before you invest. And that is applicable to property, it's applicable to cryptos, bitcoins, altcoins, business, investments, anything that you do. Please make sure that you do that. Okay, so the last thing that I perhaps want to show you, maybe it's the second last thing, you'll go to Dreyer Crypto Strategy, and then you'll see there's a free training. You subscribe to that, it's not going to cost you anything, please go through that. And then if you want to, you can tell me somewhere in the comment box, honest, please send me the information, we'll give you a basic crypto course. And then the last thing that I want to teach you quickly is, but how do you do this yourself without having a program like this? What's the process and how difficult it is? It's actually very, very straightforward. Let me show you. So the process for you is to go and register on an exchange. I'm using most of the time Luno. There are other exchanges, luno.co.za. It is risky, don't get me wrong. And for that reason, when you start off, start small. Make sure that you first understand before you really start getting into it. But the moment that you've got 100 rands here in South Africa, then you've got some skin in the game. And the moment that you've got skin in the game, when I started off the first 15,000, the moment that I had that 15,000, my attitude changed, because now I had to protect that money, and I had to find out, but how does this blockchain technology works? And it was one of the best moves that I've ever done in my life, financially at that point in time. So the process, you register. That's going to take a little bit of time. I do have a course to take you through the process to show you step by step how to do it yourself. So you don't have to stress. Simply follow the instructions. That is if you want to, otherwise you can figure it out. Plus you can go to YouTube. There are thousands, maybe not thousands, but at least tens of different ways that you can register and people that is willing to help you. The second thing is, set a reminder. I'm using my cell phone. The first of each and every month, or a specific date. Now I'm using it on the first of the month. Today is the 4th, therefore I gave you the demonstration at the 4th. But there's not going to be a massive difference between the different dates. And for that reason, go for the end of the month. Or the beginning of the month. And then on that date, you transfer the money, and there are different ways to get money into Luno or other exchanges. And for example, First National Bank here in South Africa do not want you, if you in your private personal name, to transfer money. They're not going to allow that. But if it's in your business, we've got a business account, no problem. And so sometimes things like that do happen. But there are ways on other exchanges that you can get the money in, and it's all illegal. So you transfer your money then from your bank into the exchange. The exchange then has got the facility to exchange that rands, we call it fiat money or dollars, into Bitcoin. So you buy then the Bitcoin. Now the right thing to do is, as soon as you've got the Bitcoin, is to take that into a wallet, a hard wallet. I will not keep it on the exchange simply because it's vulnerable, it can be hacked, and it happens from time to time. Right, for that reason, I want to be in control. I'm taking the responsibility. So make sure that you understand that process. And for that reason, I think it is crucial that you do that free part of the course. It's not going to be the full course, but more than enough for you to be able to start and set this up. You can even leave it if it's just 100 or 200 rand and you are willing to lose that money. Nothing happens as far as I know on Luno from when it started up to now. But I want to be in control of that part of my portfolio. I do not want to leave it to chance or where someone else, or the government, by the way, can go to Luno and close that or say, we want to have insights. Now, they can have all the insights in the world and they can know exactly how much money I've put there, but it's not under the control of Luna or the exchange. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So you transfer your money to the exchange, you buy the Bitcoins on the exchange. What you do after that is up to you. And then you sit and wait back and wait for the next month. Now, how long will this process take you? And this is the beauty. If you do this and you've got a system where a cell phone notifies you, you can even sign a debit order where on a month-to-month basis, that money is transferred. As soon as it landed in the exchange will let you know there's money available. You go to the exchange and you simply buy the Bitcoin. You don't worry about how much it costs. You don't worry about the price. If it's high, if it's low, you don't care. You simply buy because it's a rand balancing or a dollar balancing action that you're doing. And you've seen the results. And that's it. And then you simply wait for next month. And then the tip that I want to give you is be careful. Make sure that you understand the risk. And I'm going to, in the introduction free course that I'll give you access to, I'll even show you how to make sure that even on the exchange, you do it as secure as you possibly can. Right. This is really that something that I think that every single person, at least that has got property, and I'm not referring to land, I'm referring to a pension fund and a provident fund, because if they lay claim to that and they take that, my friend, you'll have serious problems. You need to start with process. So if you're serious about this, or after you've done the different free courses that I'm going to give you access, but you have to act. You have to tell me, listen, honest, this is what I want, or you have to phone the office so that they can give you the link, and we'll give you the link. Make sure that you phone the office, right? At least do something and show me, listen, I'm serious, because if 139,000 people sign a petition in order to protect their properties, I'm not sure that people are serious about life. They're not sure about financial freedom. They think nothing is going to happen. And I hope that nothing happens. But I'm not so sure that it's not going to happen. And for that reason, at least this is what I do. If we want to take it to another level, then the Dreyer crypto strategy may help you. And if you want to take it to the absolute maximum level in terms of your education, where you're willing to put in the time and the effort and even money to learn and to be on a year mentoring course, we'll be able to help you. Let me give you a quick overview of what I'm busy with the mentoring. The mentoring is actually, the method mentoring is actually like an added on portion. On the 15th of April 2019, I sent out the email and a video. The chances are, if you're on my database, that you've received it. And I said that I am going to travel 52 countries in 52 weeks with just $1. Behind that is to build a cryptocurrency portfolio that would cost me only $1. But I'm using business, I'm using cryptos, and I'm using property in order to structure that. And that is why we call it a method. We use all of that information and all that access that you've got to the Wealth Creators University, all of that information, and I'm taking my students to what we're busy doing. The outcome was to get to $70,000, because that's what it's going to cost us over the next year to be able to visit all those countries. At the moment, we're at 105, but it goes up and down simply because of the fluctuation in terms of the cryptos. Maybe I can show you a graph quickly. So this is exactly where we are today, just over $105,000 in this portfolio. But as you can see, it's extremely volatile simply because of this up and down. And then a part of that challenge is when we get back, we'll still have the $70,000. And that whole holiday is going to cost us zero in terms of we're going to do it with before tax money. And this is the power of the method. But again, it's not for everyone. It's only for people that are dedicated and people that are serious and people that want to change. And I think it's a way where we can offset the risk that our government is causing at this point in time. So if you got value from this, please let other people know about this. Please give me feedback. I'm not going to get into any political discussions or anything. I'm not into that. We can only control that we can control, and this is what I'm trying to tell you. There are certain things that I can control. There are certain things that I thought that I could control that I maybe cannot control anymore. But there are always ways. So if there's a crisis, in that crisis, what I'm trying to tell you is that there's always opportunities. And I am immensely thankful for Cyril Ramaphosa on the 1st of August, when I saw that he gave me at least the, let's call it a fighting chance, so that even if they do implement it, I'm still be in a position where I can provide and cater for my family. The property, I still believe in property. My children still in property. And I'll advise my students to go for property and not to let this, because that the learning that you're going to get from it, and if it's not going to cost you money, if you do it according to the Property Pro investment system and method, it is immense what you can do with a property. And if nothing happens, then you've got that. But if something happens, then you've got an alternative. And if nothing happens, you've got the property, plus you've got a far better position that you've built your wealth. And that is what I wanted to share with you today. So thanks for your time, and thank you for listening to me, and give me the feedback. And then I'll see you whenever I'll see you. Cheers.